Have you ever heard Kaitlynn Ledbetter's story? If not, you'll want to sit down for this one. Kaitlynn was a 25-year-old living in Hillam, Tennessee, with her father and his girlfriend. On May 2nd, 2021, at 5:30 a.m., she got into an argument with her father's girlfriend. During the argument, Kaitlynn jumped out of her bedroom window barefoot, wearing only pajamas, and ran into the woods. Oddly, text messages were sent from Kaitlynn's phone after 7 a.m., despite the fact that her phone required Wi-Fi to send them. 3 months later, tragedy struck again when her home burnt down, killing the same woman she had been arguing with that morning. Police initially denied filing a missing person report. They did not search the property for 9 months and failed to arrest her father for several years, despite him having an active warrant the entire time. What happened to Kaitlynn Ledbetter? If you have any information, please contact the authorities.
We are here with the loved one of Kaitlynn Ledbetter. Can you tell us a little bit about Kaitlynn?
My relationship with Kaitlynn was she dated my son, and they were on again, off again, but she was part of our family for probably close to 10 or 11 years. I'm not sure exactly what all you want me to say.
Just tell me a little bit about her.
Kaitlynn was a sweet girl most of the time. She could have a temper, but most of the time Kaitlynn was a really sweet girl, easy to get along with. She was really shy around a lot of people. She didn't talk a lot. When she got to know you, she would talk more. Of course, fun-loving. She had a troubled past. She lost her mother at a young age in a tragic way, and I think that affected her a lot. I think she, anybody at a young age losing a parent, I just don't think she ever really fully got past that in her life. So, but other than that, like she was just another normal young lady looking for, a happy, hopeful future.
Can you tell us about her disappearance?
Okay, I'm gonna start from what I know, and again, obviously the only people that were there was 3 people there, and 2 of them, one's missing and the other one's dead. So the morning, or actually it was kind of the middle of the night that it started. She was at home with her dad and Crystal. My son had talked to her a few times on the phone that night. She apparently was talking kind of crazy, out of her head, didn't sound like herself. My son had his car got messed up. Sorry. His car got messed up, so he didn't have a way to drive out there or whatever. So he had got a hold of my son to take him out there early that morning. And I should have went back and looked, but early that morning, all of us got a really weird text from Kaitlynn. Like, it was talking all kinds of crazy, and it was like one long ongoing sentence. Like, she was meaning to text several people, but she had actually just like group text. It wasn't a group text, but it was like she group texted a whole bunch of us. Like, I think her sister got it, my son's got it, I got it. And it was about, to me, based on the time that the police think she went missing, it had to be not too long before she went missing. This text came. So anyway, my son said that he told my other son, he's like, I got to get to Kaitlynn. Something's wrong. I have this bad feeling. Something's off with her. So my other son went and picked him up, and they rode out there. And by then, I think it was somewhere between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. It may have been later. It might have been a little earlier, but I don't think it was much earlier than that. And then when they got there, they went into the living room, and Kaitlynn's dad and his girlfriend Crystal were sitting in the living room, and they said, and Dustin asked, where's Kaitlynn? And he said, she left. Well, Kaitlynn didn't have a car. She couldn't even drive. Like, she didn't have a license. And he said, what do you mean she left? And he's like, well, we had an argument. She was acting all crazy, and she jumped out the window and took off into the woods. Dustin and my other son, and there was another guy with them, went out and immediately started looking. Scott and Crystal never went looking. Scott says that they got into an argument that morning, and I mean, just to be honest, they were doing drugs. They all had issues with drugs. I can't say 100%, but I'm 99% sure it was probably meth. And he says they got into an argument, and Crystal and Kaitlynn got into a fight, and then I don't know if he got involved and he was part of the fight or whatever, but that Kaitlynn just jumped out the window. My other son said that her window was like messed up, that something looked like it had landed on the ground out there. But so they all went looking for her. After a little while, they came back to the house, and Scott was out on the porch at that point. That's Kaitlynn's dad, and they were saying, like, what direction did she go? Where do you think she went? That kind of thing. So he said, I'll drive up and down the road and see if I see her. So I think he drove down the road, and then Dustin, my other son, and this other guy went back out in the woods and looked. They looked for a little while and then came back again. And Scott had been at some trailer down the road and found something that had nothing to do with looking for Kaitlynn. Like, it was like, hey, look at this fishing rod I found or something. I'm not saying it was a fishing rod. I'm just saying it was something odd like that, they said. But Crystal never looked. She never got up and looked for Kaitlynn at all. And Scott kept telling Dustin, don't worry about it. She'll be back. Just, it's not a big deal. Dustin and then went back out in the woods and looked until it was getting dark. And then there was a girl that had, my other son had left for a few minutes, came back, and there was a girl there, and she had told them at that point, she helped look. And then she said, you guys, it's getting dark. We can't just keep searching. Those woods are dangerous. That road down there is dangerous. And she said, we can't keep looking. I think it's time to call the police. And Dustin agreed. And Dustin said, I'm going to keep looking until it's so dark I can't see. And so Dustin kept looking, and the girl went ahead and called the police right then. And Dustin and the girl talked to the police when they got there, and told them what happened. But they said they couldn't do anything until she was missing for, I think it was 48 hours or something. They didn't even come and look for Kaitlynn for, I think it was 7 or 8 days. And then my understanding was that they had dogs out there, and they said that they picked up her scent and it went to the edge of the road, which is the highway out a little ways away from her house. And then they lost her scent. So they think she got in the car and left with somebody. I don't know if that's what happened, really. None of us can say for sure what happened. Some of us think, did she really jump out the window? Did she get pushed out the window? Did she fall out the window? They panicked thinking she was dead, or maybe she was dead and they did something. I don't know. Did she really make it all the way to the road and somebody picked her up? I don't know. The second detective that was on the case that I spoke with several times said his gut feeling was she made it to the road, got in the car with the wrong person, and one of these days her body will be found elsewhere. So, but then several months later, after Kaitlynn went missing, in August that year, Scott and Crystal were in the house, and the house burnt to the ground with Crystal in the basement, and they found Crystal deceased. There are rumors out there that she was chained to the basement wall and things like that. The detective told me that absolutely is not true. That unfortunately, he said Crystal was known to have a drinking problem, and they feel like she either died of smoke inhalation down there or was passed out drunk and never even knew. So, but that was the last contact he was let at, because once the TBI got involved, they didn't want them talking to us at all, other than if something actually came up that was actual evidence.
Real quick, do you know if an autopsy was done on his girlfriend?
That is something I've never heard what caused the fire. I have never heard an autopsy. Her mother may know, but I didn't know Crystal at all. Okay. I know her and Kaitlynn never got along. Kaitlynn was not a big fan of her. So I don't know, but I thought it was strange that nothing came out in the news or anything about what actually caused the fire.
So you don't know if it was accidental or not?
Nope. No.
Okay. So you said her father is missing. He's still missing to this day?
Her dad?
Yeah.
No, he's not missing. He has moved off I think he finally sold that property. He put it up for sale not long after the house burnt. He actually went to jail for a little while, and while he was in jail, he was trying to get somebody else to sell it, and it didn't sell for a long time because most people didn't want anything to do with that because again, it's not a good area anyway. But he since then, from my understanding, I haven't had contact with him, but my understanding is he now lives in Indiana.
Okay.
And you mentioned that somebody that may know, one was deceased and one was missing.
Okay, Kaitlynn, her dad, and Crystal were the only three people in the house that
Okay.
day. Crystal's
right.
I just wanted to make
Kaitlynn.
sure.
For me,
I
I
had
know
to
that the
double check.
likelihood that Kaitlynn is alive is slim at this point, but I'm not going to say that she's deceased because I don't know if she is. And if
Absolutely.
there's any chance that she is out there, that she did get in the car with somebody and maybe they've done something with her, or they, there's a chance that, because it does go on around here. Did she get sold into sex trafficking? I don't know. But if there's a chance she's alive out there, that's, we just want answers and closure. Most of all, we want Kaitlynn back to her family. But after all this time, we know that the longer the time goes on, I mean, to me, like, how are you ever going to find her now unless somebody, if she is alive and somebody finds her out there, or if she's dead, if somebody runs across her body. But there's no evidence to be found in the house because the house isn't there anymore.
Now, how long did it take to get a police report filed?
I don't know if the police actually filed it the day they came out there, or if they waited the 48 hours or whatever before. There was a detective originally on the case, and I talked to several people, and they feel like, and I feel like, they dropped the ball they failed Kaitlynn in every way they could possibly fail her. They didn't really follow up. They acted like it wasn't really important. It wasn't a priority. I had contacted, like, all kinds of different people were offering to help, contacting us, offering to help look. And there was one particular one that I thought would be real helpful. And I contacted, well, by then it was a different detective. I didn't finish what I was saying. The first detective, I can't remember now if he took himself off the case, if he got took off the case, or what happened. But I'm pretty sure that he is the one that about a year and a half later passed away of cancer. So anything he knew is now gone with him also. But now when the second detective took over, we were told that there was paperwork was lost, other things were lost. So the other detective kind of had to start all over. And again, by that point, she'd been missing 2 or 3 months, maybe. She'd been missing a while. He took over before the fire ever happened, but she had been missing for quite a while by the time he took over. And like I said, I would talk to him from time to time. About every week or every week and a half, I would call him or he would call me. Most of the time he would say, we don't have anything new. But, if there was something that was hopeful, he would say, well, they're going to send dogs out there or whatever. But the original people, when I said, hey, these people want to come and do a search, they were like, no, we want to keep this investigation in the county. And of course, I don't know anything about that. I've never had anybody go missing before. Now I know that they didn't have a right to tell us that we couldn't let somebody go out there and search for her. So I put them in contact with the police. And as soon as the police said they could do it, which was the following January, then they went out and did it. I think it was TBI or somebody did a search one week, and the following week they let this other group go in there and do the search. They didn't come up with anything, unfortunately, but I just thought, well, maybe if you'd let them come and do it when we first put you in contact, maybe they could have found something.
Right.
So I just feel like the police failed her. It was like it wasn't even important.
So the first search of the area by police or that search group was 9 months after she went missing?
A major search. They did some kind of like a small search. I think it was an hour or less, where they said they took the dogs out there, but that was 7 or 8 days later.
Okay.
The big searches didn't happen until the following January, or it might have even been the 1st of February.
Now her father's girlfriend, did she give any statements to the police?
Yeah, I know I think both detectives actually talked to her. They talked to Scott and her. They talked to all of us. Anybody that knew Kaitlynn, had anything to do with Kaitlynn, got brought in and talked to. I at one point was told that Crystal said that Kaitlynn went out the front door, and Scott said she fell out the window. But then the other detective said, I don't believe she ever said that Kaitlynn went out the front door. So I don't know where that came from. I don't know if she really said that or if that was some of the lost evidence that she really did say it, because that would be odd for Crystal to say she went out the front door and Scott to say she fell out the window or jumped out
Right.
the window.
Yeah. So that answers my next question a little bit of if her story ever changed.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe so. And I don't think Crystal was ever asked any, but like once. I think Crystal went down there, gave her story once, and then that was it.
Okay. No, her phone. Did she have her phone with her?
She had a cell phone, but it was not a normal working phone. She could only use it like where there was Wi-Fi or something. So it wasn't like a cell phone that she could use to call anybody anytime she wanted, but she could like get on Facebook and text message or things like that. She did not take it with her. When she
Okay.
when she left that house, however she left that house, her cell phone was there. Everything that was she would have considered valuable was there, and the clothing she was dressed in was like pajamas. It was like short little pajama bottom and a crop top of some type. And that morning, even though it was like I think it was early May, it was cool that morning and foggy that morning, and it's not something you would, if you were planning on going out the window, going out of your house, you wouldn't have been dressed that way. She was barefooted, had no shoes on. So,
Um, Now I did read something somewhere that they got in an argument at 5:30 in the morning, and then she had sent a text after 7 a.m.
I think it was between 6. It was between 6 and 7 o'clock that I got it. And like I
Okay.
said, I don't know if she sent it all separately to people or if it was some kind of a group text. I just know all of us got it at the same time, from my understanding. I didn't even realize everybody else had got it. When I got it that morning, I was asleep. And when I got up, I saw it. And then when I called my son and I talked to him, and he was like, I'm not going anywhere until I find Kaitlynn. And I was like, what do you mean find Kaitlynn? And he was like, then he told me what happened. So he'd been out there. Like I said, he looked in those woods all day that day looking for Kaitlynn.
And he
And
never found anything.
he hollered. My other son was telling me, he's like, he hollered and hollered and hollered and hollered and just screamed for her. And that was the other thing the detective at one point had told us. We really would prefer you guys not go out there and look, because if he was to come up on her body, he would disturb evidence, because his first reaction would be to go and grab her and hold her. And I said, I understand that, but at the same time, I just feel like in that way, I guess I feel like I failed her, because I feel like I should have looked a little further into what our rights were as to what we could and couldn't do. I was just thinking that the police are going to do what they need to do to find her, and then they didn't.
Right.
Do you know if what was searched or texted on her phone that she had left behind was ever evaluated by police?
The police, I know that when she has two sisters and a brother, and I believe they were all in Indiana at that point, and they didn't come for a couple days, day or two before they were able to get here. The one sister, from what I was told by the detective, actually took her phone and went back to Indiana with it, and he had to go up there to retrieve it. But I don't know if there was anything else on the phone. He never mentioned if there was any other evidence of any kind on the phone. He didn't seem to indicate that there was. So, and like I said, she didn't take it with her, obviously. So,
Right.
the message she sent, though, I mean, when I read that message, I knew my son was right with his gut instinct. Something was
Right.
really off with her that morning. Very, very off.
Did any of that message make sense, or was it completely just not able to read?
She talked about hexes and angels and karmatic numbers, and then she ended up at the end like talking about God and things, which she never really talked about God a lot, even though I'm a Christian and I'm a churchgoer and I have a strong belief in God. She went to church with us just a few times, but I feel like, just my opinion only, I feel like she was a little angry at God because of what happened to her mom. So I think that she was trying maybe to get back to having some kind of a relationship with God, but she wasn't there yet. So that was one of the odd things. I thought, Kaitlynn doesn't really talk about God a lot, and not that, she wasn't a Satan worshiper or anything like that by any means, but that wasn't a subject she talked about a lot. And like I said, it was just this big, long, rambling, endless sentence talking about angelic numbers and even talked about crystal in it. Something like crystals, and I don't know anything about all that stuff, but something like crystal's angelic number is such and such, and mine is this, and we're all going to a better place, and the world's about to end. It was just crazy. It was really just really crazy.
Now, does she have ties to any other city or state?
Indiana. She's originally from Indiana. She was living with her mom when her mom passed away, and then she came and lived with her dad. And she just struggled. As a mother, my thought was I felt like Scott should have got her some kind of counseling, because she was just struggling. When we met her, I just felt like she should, because she couldn't get along with people in school. She ended up quitting school at, like, I don't know, 16 or 17 years old, and he just let her quit school. He never encouraged her to, hey, come on, Kaitlynn, let's try to get our life back on track or anything like that. Of course, I mean, I will say again, they had drug problems. Scott had a drug problem. So maybe that's why he didn't. Maybe he had his own struggles and he didn't. Like I said, I don't know what happened in the house that morning. I know that Scott loved his daughter, but I can't say that he didn't do something to her. I will say that I don't think he did something purposely to her. I don't think he, like, cold-bloodedly killed her, but could he have pushed her out the window, accidentally and just freaked out? Possibly. I don't, all of it is just theory. And I guess that's the hard part, because we just don't know, because you have all these theories that go through your mind every day. It took us a long time to just, not cry every day and not just worry ourselves sick.
Right.
We'll never get past it until there's some kind of closure. You'll live with it. We'll live with it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Now, is she one to, like, just up and leave and not tell anyone?
No. Because, I mean, I've had people message me before and say, well, do you think she was mad at Dustin and she was trying to get away from him? She and Dustin, again, they had their arguments, but they always ended up back together. But even if she was mad at Dustin and trying to get away from Dustin, one, Dustin wasn't even there that morning. Two, she had been in Indiana and came back because she wanted to be with Dustin. So she could have just stayed in Indiana. She could have went back to Indiana. But even if she was trying to keep something a secret from Dustin, she would never put her sisters through that. She would never, ever let her sisters go on just worrying about her like that. She would, or her brother. She would just never do that. That's not Kaitlynn.
Has there been any sightings or tips or anything like that since she's been missing?
There was a couple people that thought they might have seen her in different places around here that turned out not to be. And then I think about a year ago or so, somebody had sent a picture, and I'm not even sure where it came from. I just remember it getting sent to me. That was of a girl that was supposed to be, like, in a sex trafficking ring. And she did look eerily like Kaitlynn. However, the more we looked at it, she looked a lot older than Kaitlynn. And even though something like that can age you, this girl had certain look about her and she had tattoos in places that Kaitlynn had tattoos that were not the same tattoo. And so I know you can cover up, but you can't completely change a tattoo and make the other one disappear. So I don't think it was her. At first I did think it was her. But I don't think it was her. And my son looked at it, and he looked at it for just maybe a minute or two, and he's like, that is not Kaitlynn. So
Jessica, do you have any more questions?
Nothing.
Yeah, did Scott and Kaitlynn ever use substances together, or was it that they used, okay.
Yeah, they used them together.
Okay, and has Scott ever acted erratically, or anything like that that you know of?
I can't really say for sure. I honestly, for as long as Dustin and Kaitlyn dated, I wasn't around Scott a whole lot. He kind of, but that wasn't. He had his issues, I guess, and like I said, that's not my scene. I didn't even realize that he was doing some of the things he was doing until after this happened. So I knew he had been in a little bit of trouble with the law, and I'm not even sure what that was about. I think that might have even been about stealing. I don't remember. He, like I said, he did go to jail after Kaitlyn died, but it had nothing to do with Kaitlyn's case. And they could have actually arrested him way before that because he had that outstanding warrant. And why they waited so long to arrest him, I have no idea. Because I think it was like December before they arrested him for the other stuff. So, but I mean, anybody that's doing, because he did meth. And I say did because I don't know what he's doing now in his life. He may still be doing meth. I don't know, but that'll make you act crazy, you know? Both of my sons had struggled with it, and thank the good Lord they're both clean now and sober and have their lives straightened out. But it'll make you do crazy stuff and not act like yourself. So I'm sure he probably had some kind of erratic behavior if he was doing meth.
Do you happen to know how long Scott and Crystal were together before the house fire?
Not sure. I think at least a couple years. I think they did it. And now I was told, and again, don't know this for a fact. I was told that at the time the fire happened, that Crystal was going to be moving back in with her mother or moving away, that her and Scott were at that point really just roommates, that she actually lived in the basement or slept in the basement and Scott slept upstairs. Again, don't know if that's true or not, but that was what I was told.
Okay. That is all. Is there any community questions? Okay.
All right, question number 1. Have other property owners around searched their properties?
Yes, from my understanding, everybody was asked to, and I think the police did go around to a few of the houses. There are some, which again, one of them has passed away, and then I think they sold the property. But there is a family that lived out there that was not very savory characters, is the best way I know to put it. They were into drugs and things like that too, and there's lots and lots of rumors about them.
Was there any security cameras or hunting cameras?
No, not that I know there wasn't on Scott's property. I don't know if anybody else has had any, and if they have, they haven't come forward and said anything about seeing anything.
And that looks about it for questions. Some of the questions were actually answered by the community.
Perfect. Is there a page that you have set up for Kaitlyn for anybody to be able to follow the case and her story?
There are a few out there. I haven't personally set any up because again, since I'm not blood related, I try not to overstep because again, my whole point, I just want Kaitlyn found. I want to know what happened. I don't like getting into arguments with people about things that don't matter. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about finding Kaitlyn. So I always help any way I can. If I can answer a question or set something straight, I will do that. But I know there have been 2 or 3 different pages at different times set up for her, and several missing persons sites that she's on that people ask questions and things like that about.
And if Kaitlyn were to be listening right now, is there anything that you would like to say to her?
Yeah, if she's out there, please just try to find a way to communicate with us and let us know where you are, how we can get you home. We all love you and we miss you, and we pray for you every day for your safe return.
Thank you for that. And thank you
Thank
for
you guys for
your
doing
time
it.
Thank you
and
for your
being her
time.
voice.
I wish I could do more, but I appreciate you guys let it be known that she's still missing, because that's more than the police even do. They don't even update people on their website that, hey, she's still missing. We'd still like answers, So I just don't want it to be forgotten that she's still missing and people love her and want her back home.